The Sacramento Kings salvaged their homestand with a 139-114 beatdown of the Houston Rockets to accomplish something they haven't done since 2006. Other fan bases are going to roll their eyes at it, but here in Sacramento, it's worth celebrating, and we're going to talk about it right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports producer and reporter at ABC 10 News. And I was cranky in the first half of this game because the first half was very similar to the first three quarters of the game on Wednesday night when the Kings beat the Houston Rockets by 20 points. And even though the Kings technically beat the Rockets by a lesser margin tonight, I still thought tonight's game was way better than Wednesday night's win. And I'll explain why in a little bit when I do a full comparison of the first to second halves and share with you why I love the second half so much. But I'm going to start with what really matters. Start with something that to most fan bases, and maybe to some Kings fans, means nothing. But I'm telling you, it's extremely significant. With the Kings win over the Houston Rockets tonight, the Sacramento Kings are 5 games over 500. It is the first time they've been 5 games over 500 since the very end, April of 2006. Now, Matt, 5 games over 500 means nothing. You're 41 games in the season. You have 41 games left. There's plenty of time for things to go wrong, plenty of times for the Kings to add upon that number. And the hope is that with their upcoming games against San Antonio, Los Angeles, and Oklahoma City, that they will be able to add on to that 500 number. But it's a hump that, one, this team has not been able to get over this season. Before tonight, I think they were 0-7 in games that could put them at 5 games above 500. So not only is it significant for this team, it's significant for this organization, it's significant for this city, and it's significant for this fan base. If you're talking about a race or a road back to the playoffs, something that we haven't had since 2006, something that we haven't seen or been even really able to think about since or in 16 years, being 5 games over 500 is a checkpoint upon that road. It's not the finish line. The finish line is still a long way to go. It is a checkpoint, but it is worth celebrating. It is worth celebrating for every Sacramento Kings fan, regardless of if you've watched every single game and followed every game for the last 16 years with a bag over your head, or if you're maybe new to this team this year. Maybe you fell in love with the Beam Team idea. Maybe you're not from Sacramento, but you're interested in Kings basketball. First off, I appreciate you for listening to the Locked On Kings podcast. Second off, welcome. Because this has been something that Kings fans have asked for and wanted and desired, even if the 5 games over 500 wasn't exactly what we had written on our wish board or our chalkboard or anything at home. It's something that we needed as a fan base. It's something that the Sacramento Kings needed as a reminder of the road that they're on and where they are at. And there are going to be fans. There are going to be Golden State Warriors fans, Los Angeles Lakers fans, fans of whatever team at work that are going to laugh at this podcast, that are going to laugh at the Kings and Kings fans making a big deal about being 5 games over 500. The same way the national media and national NBA fans laughed at the video at Summer League at the Golden State Warriors at Chase Center in San Francisco when that Kings fan hyped up after a Kings victory flexed to the camera and said, "We're winning 40 games this year." That is the epitome of what the Sacramento Kings are asking for, rather the Sacramento Kings fan base is asking for. They just want progress. They just want to know that they're on the right path. We've had a lot of fake hope or moments over the last 16 years that made you think the Kings are on the right path, only for it to fall apart. And I'm telling you, even if I've been frustrated with how this homestand has been to this point, even if I'm frustrated that the Kings didn't go 4-1 or 5-0 on this homestand, and maybe I'm asking a little too much, that's fine. That's my opinion. You can have your own opinion. Even with that, I recognize and I know that being 5 games over 500 is worth celebrating, that this is something that shows everybody that this team is legitimate. This team is not going to fall apart. This team is not going to end up falling 5, 6, 7 games under 500 like we saw in 2018, the 2018-2019 season under head coach Dave Yeager. This team is legitimate. We're halfway through the season. This is not a feel-good story anymore. This is real. This is reality. This team is this good. And the fact that they are 5 games over 500 is a checkpoint. It's an indication that things are finally happening in Sacramento, that this is the progress that Kings fans have been asking for nearly 2 decades. There's kids that can drive who have never seen the Kings be 5 games over 500. So if you're a fan of another team, laugh all you want, because this is an indication that Sacramento has been waiting for. This is something that the fan base deserves to celebrate. And you're going to hear later on in the podcast, I'm going to play for you almost Mike Brown's entire post-game press conference, because I thought it was a masterclass of a press conference. And part of that press conference was me asking Mike to talk about how it feels to give Kings fans something. Give Kings fans 5 games over 500 that they have not had for nearly 2 decades. And Mike had a great answer to that. Again, you're going to hear that later on in the podcast. Let's compare these 2 halves, right? Because first half, even though the Kings were ahead at halftime, I went into halftime grumpy, the same way I was grumpy after 3 quarters of the Kings and Rockets on Wednesday night. And I saw a lot of your messages. I read a lot of your tweets, read a lot of your emails, saw you on the comment section on Twitter. Most of you were thinking I was being a curmudgeon. Most of you were thinking I was asking for too much. And I understand that, and I appreciate that feedback. I'm telling you, what we saw in the second half of this Kings game is what I've been asking for. It's what the Kings are capable of, because even though it resulted in a blowout of the Houston Rockets and the Kings blew the Rockets out of the water, this kind of effort in the second half against a Boston Celtics, against a Milwaukee Bucks, against a Denver Nuggets means the Kings are probably within 5 points or have a chance to win the game at home, especially in a playoff atmosphere. It's going to take efforts like this sometimes in the second half for the Sacramento Kings to have a chance to win. Tonight, they did it to blow the team out. And against the Houston Rockets, that's what I expect. That's what a lot should expect. We know this is what the Sacramento Kings are capable of, offensively and defensively. But they're going to need part of this effort. They're going to need to be able to do this consistently if they want to turn into a team that, 1, is a consistent playoff threat, and 2, is a championship contender. Of course, we're only worrying about number 1 this season. We're not too worried about number 2 yet, although we want this team to grow there, and why not start that growth right now instead of waiting till after you are eliminated from the playoffs this season. So let's compare these 2 halves, right? The first half, Sacramento Kings outscore the Rockets 69-66. Second half, Sacramento Kings outscore the Rockets 70-48, including a 43-26 third quarter. The fact that the Kings had their big quarter in the third instead of the fourth, yes, there's a world of difference in that for me. Even if the final score is the Kings winning by 15 instead of winning by 20, the final score of that game on Wednesday didn't tell the story of the game. The story of tonight's game is that Sacramento completely dominated the entire second half of this game when they needed to. They took control and put the Rockets to sleep quickly. Jalen Green, he was in a lot of ways carrying the Houston Rockets in the first half. He had 25 points in the first half. Second half, 2 points. So you're talking about a direct adjustment that the Sacramento Kings were able to make to take a player who is scorching hot and diminish him to 2 points. That's a major accomplishment by Sacramento's defense to make that kind of adjustment and to force that out of a player who's struggling. And I think Jabari Smith Jr. also finished with 27 points in this game. A lot of those points were in garbage time in the fourth quarter. It wasn't nearly the same game that Jalen Green had. How about turnovers? Sacramento was doing a terrible job taking care of the basketball. 10 turnovers in the first half, resulting in 14 points for the Houston Rockets. In the second half, the Kings turned the ball over 4 times, resulting in 2 Rockets points. And on the flip side of that, the Rockets turned the ball over just 5 times, resulting in 5 Kings points in the first half. In the second half, the Rockets turned the ball over 10 times, resulting in 16 points for the Kings. They were getting steals. Those were stops, leading to transition opportunities and buckets. That's where the Sacramento Kings pulled away. It's not necessarily them always forcing the Rockets to miss shots and having lockdown defensive possessions. If they can force a steal or 2, force a turnover, force a bad decision, and use that to get out and transition to string some points together and string a run together, that's huge for this Kings team. That can be the identity of their defense, not locking everybody down in the half court every single possession, every single night. How about the Rockets shooting? This feeds into the defense a little bit. The Rockets are shooting 51% from the field, 40% from three-point range in the first half. In the second half, their field goal percentage dropped to 43%, 23% from three-point range. Again, this is numbers half by half. That's not the final numbers at the end of the game. They shot in just the second half, third and fourth quarters, 43% from the field, 23% from three-point range. Now let's talk about the Kings' ball movement. We know this team loves to pass the basketball. 14 assists in the first half. Not horrible. Compared to 20 assists in the second half. The Kings finished with 34 assists on the night, 20 of them coming in the second half. That just goes to show you how good the ball movement was there in the second half. This is what I'm talking about. This is a half of basketball that the Sacramento Kings are capable of putting up. And again, for tonight's game, against tonight's opponent, this second half resulted in a blowout. But a second half like this against a really, really good team means the Kings maybe have a 5 or 7 point lead at the end of the game. Means the Kings are trying to do their homework a little bit early and not putting themselves in a position where they have to play catch up with a minute left, or they're only trying to hold on to a 2 or 3 point lead against a team with experience who has been there before. We saw how many close games that the Kings were playing on this home floor early on in this road homestand and in the last homestand, even on the last road trip that the Kings went on. It's nice to have 3 straight games where the Sacramento Kings have won by a margin of 16.6 points per game. That even makes heel frustrated Matt George, who said this was a failure of a homestand. And I still do, for me personally, feel like the Kings have failed in some way on this homestand. It makes it way easier to swallow. I am thrilled with the fact that after starting 0-2, the Kings rattled off 3-0 and won them in convincing fashion. And of course, now they are 5 games over 500. Let's talk about Domantas Sabonis really quick before you hear from Mike Brown. Domantas freaking Sabonis is unbelievable, man. Here's his triple-double tonight. 19 points, 15 rebounds, 16 assists, and for good measure, 2 steals and 2 blocks. That is a stat line that only one man in the league is capable of putting up other than Domantas Sabonis, and his name is Nikola Jokic. Now, Sabonis is now 3rd in the NBA in triple-doubles with 4. I think number 2 is Luka Doncic with 12, and Nikola Jokic is number 1 with 13. So, okay, you see a gap, right? Nikola Jokic has 13 triple-doubles, I think, and Domantas Sabonis has 4. There's a pretty big gap between them, right? And I know Luka Doncic, I just said, is putting up triple-doubles at a ridiculous rate as well, but Luka Doncic is a very different player than Domantas Sabonis and, of course, plays a different position as a primary ball handler, more of a guard than anything else, even if he has kind of a forward's body. In terms of big men who facilitate the offense, there are only 2 in the league that are doing what Domantas Sabonis is doing. The other one is the back-to-back MVP, who has a very good chance to make it 3 straight-time MVP for the Denver Nuggets in Nikola Jokic. So how in the world is Domantas Sabonis not a household name? Shame on NBA fans who call themselves fans of basketball who are not paying attention to what Sabonis is doing. And thank God we don't have to deal with the absolute nonsense conversation that is, what are the Sacramento Kings doing trading away Tyrese Halliburton to the Indiana Pacers? I bring this angle up to say this. The Kings are great. The Indiana Pacers are great. I know that Tyrese Halliburton is struggling or is dealing with an injury issue right now, and we wish him the speediest of recoveries. The Indiana Pacers are playing well above expectations, as are the Sacramento Kings. This is one of the most balanced trades in history, and still, in my opinion, the Sacramento Kings got the better player out of the deal, bringing Domantas Sabonis here. Thank God we're not having to deal with that. Now we shouldn't have to deal with questions as to whether or not Domantas Sabonis should be in the All-Star game or not. Fan voting be damned. I know he's not going to be a starter. I don't care. It's an absolute 100% foregone conclusion that Domantas Sabonis is going to be in the All-Star game. And you're going to hear Mike Brown here in just a second say that De'Aaron Fox should be joining him. Coming up, almost the entirety of Mike Brown's press conference I'm going to play for you. I encourage you. I think it's mandatory viewing and listening for Sacramento Kings fans because he covers so many great things, including sharing a lot of love for you. You're going to hear that in just a second. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want to deal with all the fat and all the calories, you have to try a Built Bar. Look, it's January. A lot of us have New Year's resolutions to eat better, maybe put on some muscle, lose some weight, overall feel better. But look, we all have a sweet tooth. We all enjoy those snacks and those treats after dinner time, or sometimes before dinner time. Guilty of that. And we don't want to have to give those up in order to accomplish our resolutions. Well, Built Bar says you don't have to. It's because they provide bars and granola bars and marshmallow puffs that are delicious, that are tasty, that are covered in 100% chocolate, but are good for you. We're talking about only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein in your average Built Bar. And now you don't have to just get them on Built.com and wait for them to be sent to you. You can go to your local Walmart. Go to your Sam's Club while you're doing your normal grocery shopping. Go to the pharmacy section, pick up a box of Built Bars right now, and you can try their great flavors like brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Trust me, allow Built Bars to not only satisfy that sweet tooth, but help you satisfy and accomplish those New Year's resolutions.
The first thing I like to do is, man, I want to thank the fans. That building is loud. Those fans are into the game for 48 minutes. I've acknowledged them and how loud they've been in the past, and it's no different, but I want to especially thank them now because there's obviously been terrible weather out there, and they're still showing up. And to jump in a car and drive in the crappy weather that we've been seeing and all that other stuff, that's much appreciated by myself and everybody else in the organization. So again, we love them. We love them because they're the loudest fans in the NBA. But more importantly, during this crazy weather time, they're still showing up. And they're showing up in force, with a lot of force. So thank you, Sacramento. Hopefully we'll keep playing well for you guys, and we love that you guys keep showing up no matter what's going on outside. Our second half is, in my opinion, a testament of who we can be. We are capable of defending at a high level. I don't care who's in front of us. We just have to get consistent with it on a night-in, night-out basis. We have to want to do it. And that was evident in the second half. Foxy's the head of a snake. He was fantastic on the ball. He jump-started us defensively. And then we just had a lot of great performances behind him. I thought Trey's been fantastic with his defensive assignments. His verticality on the backside, I thought, started us or projected us or got us going, defensively. It was beautiful. He did his work early. He did everything that we asked of him, and he made a heck of a play that everybody just fed off of. Domas was fantastic defensively. I can go down the line. Our ability to take care of the ball in the second half was tremendous. We had 4 turnovers for 2 points in the second half. Phenomenal. Because we got stops and we were able to get out and run, 21 fast break points. Jalen Green had 25, talented young man, 25 points in the first half, 2 points in the second half. I can go on and on. TD was great in the second half. Drove me crazy in the first half. I love him, but he drove me crazy in the first half, like a couple other players. But his second half was phenomenal on both ends of the floor. And then, Domas. If he and Foxy aren't an all-star, shame on the whole process. Because those guys are more than deserving. You're talking about a guy that is, he's tied the single season record for triple doubles for us.
Has in the Sacramento era.
In the Sacramento era.
Yes.
That says something, and it's not like we're sitting in 12th place. I truly believe you have to give heavy consideration to everybody's record when it comes to voting for all-star players. And Domas and Foxy, they're just not getting enough love, and it's a shame. The triple-double he had, the way he got it, I think Oscar Robertson was the only one to get triple-double like that?
Yes. Last person is 15, 15, and 15 is Oscar.
In that to me, that's absolutely amazing. That's amazing. And, it's not like this is a one-off because this is not his first triple-double. So hopefully sooner than later, these guys will start getting the appropriate love from around the league that they deserve. Media, starting with the media, because media has a lot of influence, especially the national media. They got a lot of influence on the people that they're writing to and speaking to. And hopefully Domas and Foxy will get their due respect because they're doing it night in and night out.
Mike, I guess the biggest thing, it seemed like from the first half to the second half, was Jalen Green going from 25 points to 2 points. Just what did you guys do? What did you guys talk about at halftime? What was it that made that impact?
Well, we started blitzing him a little bit more. He's a talented young man that has a lot of skill. He can score from all three levels, and so we start double teaming a little bit more in the pick and roll situation, and basically saying, hey, somebody else is going to beat us. More importantly, Jalen, you're getting doubled. You're going to have to get the ball out of your hands the right way, and somebody else is going to have to make a play or make a shot besides him. But before really relying on that and going to that, Foxy picked up his ball pressure and just decided to sit down and guard him, which was fun to see.
Mike, if you could speak on the fans a little bit more. Yeah. This is the first time since 2006 that the Kings have been 5 games above 500, which might not be a big deal to other fan bases. But you and this team have not been here for the last 16 years, but they have, and they've been through it. Does it feel good for you and for this team to know that you're giving these fans something that they haven't had in nearly 2 decades?
100%. And you don't just feel it here at the arena during the games. I'm telling you, you're out and about in Sacramento, and just the love that they give us and the excitement and the joy that everybody is feeling for what we're trying to accomplish for the city is second to none, and it's genuine. You genuinely feel their joy when you're talking to them, and that gets contagious. It makes you want to do more, and then sometimes I sit back and I got to remember, this is the first year that this group's been together, and we're playing young guys and guys that have not won at a high level consistently in this league yet, and so I got to keep remembering that sometimes we're going to lose a game we quote unquote should win, especially if a team comes in here on a losing streak or whatever. It's going to happen, and if it does happen, let's rely on the work that we've put in and the work that we're continuing to do to get us or help us crawl out of the hole or to get us moving forward again once we take a couple of steps backwards. But it does, man. It feels good to see the joy that the fans have, because at the end of the day, it's a game, and we enjoy it. Most of us would be playing and coaching for basically free if we weren't getting paid the money we were getting, and same with the fans. They go watch a game here and there, even if it wasn't on TV and in this environment. So happy for them, and we love them to death, and we're just glad that we're able to bring some joy to them, and they're able to help us out too, because they've helped us out a ton this year.
Hey, Mike, I don't know if you're really big on manifestation or writing your goals down before the start of the season. You come take over this Kings organization after winning a championship with the Warriors. Can you just give us your assessment on where the team is currently at? Did you foresee this at the start of the season?
No, I have no goals written down. I'm at, obviously we had a contract that everybody signed that said, all in. And that's up in this locker room and upstairs. And I signed it. That's probably about the only thing that I was expecting, really that's written down is everything that's on those signs. And, basically embracing your role and doing what you can to help this team win. Other than that, I didn't write it down, but I expected us to be in the playoffs. and I expected us to compete, and everything else. You just kind of know that you're going to have to take it day by day to kind of build. That I think, we'd be sitting in this spot at this point. I didn't. It was neither here nor there because I didn't think about it. The one thing that I said before that's surprising me a little bit is, I knew we were good shooters. I knew we had playmakers and guys that are willing passers. But I did not foresee us being as efficient as we are on the offensive side of the ball at this point in the season. I thought we could be a pretty good offensive team, in the upper realm of the Western Conference or the league offensively. But, to be a top 5 offense the whole year is something that I didn't foresee.
Hey, Mike, building off of that, this is not a feel-good story anymore. You're halfway through the season. You guys are legit. Is it going to be harder the second half, do you think?
I've said this to our guys before. What I've experienced, it's easy to kind of get up in the mix. It's hard to stay in the mix because now teams have a different level of respect for you when they play you. Their level of preparation is different. And they're trying to knock you back down anytime they play you so they can replace you or, in their minds, put you in your quote-unquote place. So in order for us to stay at the top of the mountain, we're going to have to bring it to another level. And that starts with this team defensively because we have a tremendous amount of room to grow on that side of the ball. And if we buy into it, believe it, and go do it, we can be real good for a long time.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by LinkedIn. And as a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members that you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. It's like having an NBA scouting department right there for you, all the tools you could possibly need to attract the best candidates, like their resume data that uses insight from your job post company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. You can identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates and to your job with their great targeting tools. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications all in one platform. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you need for your team and for your job faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I hope you enjoyed that Mike Brown press conference. Now, before we wrap up, I have to highlight a couple of other Kings players who had great nights. I want to start with Terrence Davis, had 22 points, 7 of 14 shooting from the field, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Once again in the starting lineup, second night of a starter with Kevin Huerter out with a non-COVID-related illness. We have no idea if he's going to be available for Sunday's game against the San Antonio Spurs, and I don't expect a stat line like this from Terrence Davis every single night. Some nights he's on, other nights he's off, but I think Terrence has done a really good job holding down that position with Kevin Huerter out, and of course he was a major plus for Sacramento in the second half in this game. De'Aaron Fox, 24 points, 9 of 14 shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. This was a coasting game for De'Aaron, not that he was taking plays off, but that he was making the right plays, taking advantage of the Kings' runs when he needed to in the second half. Also had some big buckets in the first half. Had a nasty tip dunk off of a Terrence Davis missed 3 on this basket behind me in the first half, which was awesome to see, and you can see a slow motion replay of that. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably saw it earlier on in the show, but you can watch that on my Twitter account at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter if you want to check that out. But De'Aaron was great, and then Harrison Barnes continues to play extremely well. He had 27 points, 5 of 8 shooting from three-point range, also had 7 rebounds. Plus, the Kings got great performances out of Trey Lyles and Malik Monk off the bench. Now, Malik Monk was actually ejected from this game, as was Chimezie Metu, because 2 of them were involved in an incident involving Garrison Matthews, who I don't know Garrison. I don't really watch him play too much, but from the 2-game sample size that I've seen Garrison Matthews play, he looks like a bit of a dirty player to me. Now, he clubbed Keegan Murray for a transition opportunity in Game 1 on Wednesday, was issued a flagrant foul for that, finished the game, no other incidents. Tonight, though, he and Malik Monk were going for a loose ball instead of going for the ball. Matthews kind of went into Malik, knocked him off balance. Malik responded and had a few things to say to Matthews. The two got involved. Chimezie Metu got involved. Terry Eason got involved. All four of them were ejected. I thought they were soft ejections. I understood Malik and Matthews getting thrown out. I didn't understand Chimezie Metu and Eason getting thrown out for both just being issued one technical foul. You need two techs to be thrown out of a game. So I didn't really understand that. Hopefully, I imagine Matthews will maybe get some kind of fine. Maybe Malik Monk will get a fine as well. I hope that Eason and Chimezie Metu, who were called instigators or escalators of the incident, I hope that they don't receive any kind of punishment or anything, because I think that would be pretty soft and pretty ridiculous. But now we turn our attentions to a brief road trip, one game against San Antonio. I hope that's a win for the Sacramento Kings so they can get 6 games above 500. Actually, it's a 2-game road trip, because they also have the Los Angeles Lakers, and that could end up being a pretty significant game in terms of tiebreaker. If the Kings win that game, they go to 3-1 over the Lakers on the season, which automatically means if the Kings and Lakers somehow finish with the same record, which is very possible with LeBron James in that team, I know Anthony Davis is about to come back, well, that's a big deal for the Sacramento Kings and could be the difference between a seed or two. So we'll have to see and wait for that. I'm excited about that. Thank you for a great week here of Locked On Kings. Thank you for putting up with my grouchiness and grumpiness after the Kings win on Wednesday. I feel a little bit better after tonight's game, really a lot a bit better. And I hope you're enjoying yourself as much as I've seen so many Kings fans enjoying themselves here inside the Golden One Center. You absolutely deserve it, and I appreciate you so much for continuing to support this team and this podcast. Until next time, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.